Alrighty. Shalom everyone. I almost forgot, I have a story. And the story goes as follows. There was, in one of the European countries, a Jewish man. His name was, they always have it in the story as Moshe, so that's all, it was Moshe. So he lived in this landowner's land, and he was lucky. That landowner was a very, very nice fellow, and he loved this merchant. He was a rug merchant, and this landowner, he always talk about him, how straight he is, how honest he is. And because of this, a lot of his friends also will go buy carpets and rugs from this person. And he was, as you could imagine, very successful. So years passed, everything was nice and good. One Shabbat morning, sitting with his family, about to make Kiddush, suddenly knocking on the door. Who is it? It's Ivan, the estate manager for the landowner. And he says, well, how can I help you? He says, listen, I am, the boss sent me because as you know, he's having a great gathering tonight. He wants to change all the rugs in his palace. And he wants you to come and measure and tell him exactly what he should take and so on and so forth. And he says, listen, this is going to be the biggest business you have ever made, with a wink. Moshe said, no can do. Go tell our master. I would love to help him, as always, I do. However, it's today is Shabbat, and I cannot conduct business on Shabbat. He says, what? What are you talking about? Come on, this is business. This is serious things. He said, I can't talk about it. So he went back. And his wife, his kids were like, wow, they were amazed. An hour later, boom, 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 knocking on the door again. Who is it? Ivan. And this time he's very mad. He says, you have to know, the boss is extremely upset. He says, if you don't bring him what he wants now, he's going to cut off all contact with you. And he's going to tell everyone else also to cut off contact with you, and you're going to lose everything you have. You're going to lose your business, everything. I'm telling you, it's really worth it for you to do this. He says, tell our master that my friendship with him is very important for me. However, my connection with my God is even more important. I will not let go of the mitzvot of Hashem. I will not betray my laws. And he kept on pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Nothing. Until his wife sees this is getting dangerous. They're going to lose everything. He says, can I speak to you for a moment, please? She takes him to the next room and says, listen, maybe this time we could make an exception. This is serious things. We're going to lose our parnasah. We're going to lose everything. He said, listen, all of this is the Yetzer Hara. We're not allowed. I cannot do this. Even if I'm going to lose everything, all of our livelihood, they're not killing us. I cannot let go of this. I cannot be over. I cannot transgress any of the Isurim of the Torah, and that's it. And he comes out, he tells them the same thing, very nice, very comfortable, no pressure. He tells him, I can't do this, I'm sorry, for no money in the world. Don't worry about it. So he finally gives up, the manager, and leaves. And that was it. The rest of Shabbat was beautiful, it was singing, happy. The next day, in the afternoon, they were preparing for lunch. Sunday, he sees that the landowner himself, with his fancy chariot, is there with all his bodyguards and servants, and he's smiling. Comes over to him, hugs him, and gives him a wallet full of money. He says, this is your portion. He says, what is this? He says, we made a little bet, and I made a hefty amount of money, and this is the portion that you deserve. He says, what's going on? He says, as you know, I had a big event last night. A lot of the guests came earlier, and they were all, as always, the conversation went about the Jews and how they started saying, these Jews, they're all bloodsuckers, they're all thieves, they're all not trustworthy, this, that. Everyone was talking about Jews. And I said, none of you people know the Jews. My Jew, my Jew, he is very trustworthy, and I never seen anything wrong about him. Everything in business he conducts it perfectly. And they were all laughing at me. You're so naive. You're this. You're that. And slowly throughout the conversation, they decided, you know what? We're going to put you to the test. They decided they're going to put you to the test, and they asked my manager to come up with this thing, and they sent him. And they were all laughing. They said, "Watch, you're going to lose all the money that you bet for your Jew." And lo and behold, he comes back. He said, "No." And I had a sigh of relief when you said no. And they said, "No, go back again." And you know the rest of the story.
Who said go back? The people or?
The people sent the manager back again. I didn't want to, but they sent him back again. They said, "This time be rough with him." I said, they saw that you wouldn't budge. And here it is. This is your thing. And then he turned to his wife after the person left. He says, "From keeping Shabbat, you never lose. If anything, Baruch Hashem, we always gain tranquility and sincerity and the beauty of Shabbat." All right. We got up to pets for Shabbat, if I'm not mistaken. If a person has different types of animals at home, right? He has to know that animals are mukseh, mahmat, gufo. Why? Mukseh, mahmat, gufo, that means it's the highest standard of mukseh, because we have nothing to do with this animal. It's not food, and it's not a kli. There's nothing you could do with it. If anything, there is one more thing about an animal. Chachamim made a gezerah, ein mishtameshim beba'al chai. That means you cannot use a Baal Chai. You can't even lean on a horse, right? Any usage of a Baal Chai is asur. It's a separate thing. It's a gezerah of Chachamim. Besides the halachot of mukseh, there is also that we have on a Baal Chai. Let's say someone wants to sit on his dog and have fun, let him carry me around. Can't do that. It's shimush Baal Chai. And it's asur, you know how kids, they like to play with dogs, they sit on them and they pull on the thing and it goes, we can't do that on Shabbat, right? It's shimush Baal Chai, besides it's being mukseh. Not just the dog, any animal. Even if you have you have chicken in your house and the chicken somehow jumps on the table and starts breaking all the china and the glassware, you can't do anything. You can't just say, "Come here, chicky," and pick it up and put it away. You have to shoo it away. You can't move it. It's absolutely mukseh, even if your china set is going to be
You cannot walk
missing.
with your dog in Shabbat?
We'll get to that. Walking is different. You are not lifting it. You're not carrying it. What about parakeets or these little beautiful birds? These sort of things, they make very beautiful sounds. Or as we mentioned the story a couple of months ago about this parrot, that could imitate people and so on and so forth. They're for entertainment purposes. They are as well mukseh, mahmat, gufo. Mukseh, mahmat, gufo. We said you can't even move it. Letzorach gufo, letzorach mekomo. That means you need a space where this bird is, the bird cage is. You want to eat. You cannot lift it and put it away, right? This cannot be moved because it's a strong type of mukseh. Mukseh mahmat gufo. It itself is mukseh, and therefore we cannot move it in a normal manner. If you have an aquarium, fish tank, you have goldfish in it, right? They're beautiful just to watch them, yeah. But it is also mukseh mahmat gufo, and they as well cannot be moved. However, Rav Ovadia writes, if your fish tank, aquarium, whatever it is in a place where the sun is beating on it, and it's going to be very hot, and the fish would be suffering, right? They're under the heat. You could see that they're not comfortable. In that case, you could be mekel and move them from there because of tzar ba'alei chayim. As you all know, it is asur to cause discomfort for any living creature, any animal, right? We cannot cause them to have tzar, to have pain, to be suffering. We can't do that. It's asur at Sar Balachayim, and that isur, that prohibition is from the Torah. Right? The prohibition to do that is from the Torah. Mukseh is rabbinic. Sar Balachayim is from the Torah. So this is not allowed, and therefore we cannot go ahead and move them we could go ahead and move them for the purpose of them not suffering. Now, is one just a side note? Is one allowed to feed this fish? The answer is yes, because it's your obligation to feed them. Where are they going to get food from? If it's some bird on the street, no, you can't feed that bird because it's not your obligation. The birdie will find food out there. But if it's your bird, your fish, the responsibility is on you. Therefore, you are not only allowed to, you should, you have to go ahead and feed them. Another side note, if, God forbid, you find a fish that's dead in your aquarium, are you allowed to take it out on Shabbat? You are, because this fish could hurt and damage and get the other fish sick. So therefore, you are allowed to. That would be hefset. That would be a loss, right? You know, imagine you have a dead fish floating on your aquarium. It's probably diseased. It's something, and it will hurt. It will damage the other fish, and then in that case, you could go ahead and take it out. Okay, it's not a soup.
So if it's just one fish and one bowl.
So then there's no point to it. It's not going to hurt.
You can't take it.
Right. In that case, there's no. If it's gonna, if we're talking, there's other fish. There is other fish in the sea, and you want to take it. Now, in the same token, the question was asked. This person in Israel in a yeshuv, he had the chicken, and some of these chicken were rough. They were poking the other chicken in the in the kennel. Is it called a kennel? I thought it's only for dogs. I'm not sure. What? Coop. Chicken coop. Thank you. Coop, kennel, that's all. So they were attacking the other chicken. So the owner asked, is he allowed to remove the other chicken to safety on Shabbat out of this churus jangi, as they call it in Farsi? And the answer is yes. Again, because of the same reason of tzar ba'al-chayim, you are allowed to move the innocent chicken that are being hurt by this wild chicken to a safer zone. Okay, now so we were discussing moving, picking up, lifting, right? Pets, animals, different type of living beings. Is one allowed to hold the neck of an animal to guide it, right, to walk? Right? Is that considered the tiltud, the moving an animal? The answer is, if it's for their own need, then one is allowed to do it. Or you want to touch the side and push it somehow aside, that you could do it. Just you have to be careful that because of you, they are not lifted off of the ground. Okay? With a dog, or if you have a cow, this is not going to happen. If you touch it on the side, it'll barely move, the cow. If you ever tried. It's very hard, trust me. And you will not lift it. But lighter animals, yes. You have a chicken. You have a little. Okay, birds are gonna fly away. But you have a chicken, right? When you touch it, it's gonna jump up. That is asur, right? You could grab it the neck and guide it to their cage and stuff for their own protection. That we could do, right? However, because they're mukseh and it is asur to move mukseh, you can't do it. However, this cannot be done in Reshut Harabim outside, because what's going to happen is they're going to start running and you're going to want to lift it. That's asur. Carrying it in Reshut Harabim, carrying you where there is no eruv, that would be asur. Besides the fact that you would be carrying mukseh. So outside, no. In the yard, in an enclosed area where you know they're not going to run away and there's no danger of you lifting them, in that case, that is allowed. Okay? If you happen to have chicken, right, and you're afraid that that it's going to get lost, and so on and so forth, there you can't push it, because once you push the chicken, it's going to jump up. So in that case, what you do is you guide it in a way. You don't have chicken, you don't have to worry about it. I'm just giving a general idea. Guide it in such a way that it'll on its own go into some in their coop, and they'll be safe and sound, right? Now, as far as walking the dog, right, you're not doing really anything. The dog is actually the one pulling you, right? As you know. So we're not really moving them. They're just moving on their own. You're just watching it. It's just that if there's no eruv and you have a leash, the leash shouldn't be sticking out of your hand too long, because then it looks like you're carrying a strap, right? It looks like you're carrying something outside. So therefore, it should be just in your hand. Otherwise, in these areas, there is an eruv, and one could walk a dog for the purpose of the dog, for the well-being of the dog. You know, they go nuts if they stay indoors.
What if you end up pulling them?
If you end up,
What if it's necessary for you to pull them? Let's say they see another dog and they go crazy.
as long as you don't lift it, you're still okay, right? Because it's, at the end of the day, it's walking on its own, right? But once you drag it, like, you know, it's not walking, then we have an issue. As long as you don't lift it off the ground, it's walking, chai no se et atzmo, you're still okay, right? But yeah, I know, sometimes it does get vicious. Let the other person drag their dog away, they'll be fine. Now, what about the what is this? What are these dogs called? The seeing eye dog, right? People, you know, the Barminan, they're blind, and they have these dogs. These dogs are amazingly trained. These dogs are like unbelievable, and they do everything. They're literally in Israel. Whoever was in Israel, you've seen plenty of them there. You know, they come on the buses. They're like, they take them all over. They're amazing. So these dogs. They help, they guide the blind person anywhere, and they can't go anywhere without him. So it is mutar for him to go ahead and hold on to the leash. They have special, like, you know, hard leashes. It's mutar for them to hold on to it, and that's not considered using a ba'al chai. Again, because you don't have to even move them. They move a person. They move the person, and they are fine. That's as far as that. Any questions on pets? Yes.
What if the pet is injured and, let's say, broke a leg or something, you have to take him to the hospital?
We can't be mechal Shabbat for it.
So what do you do?
Cannot be mechal Shabbat, but for the suffering, we do whatever we can as long as we're not mechal Shabbat, right? To alleviate the suffering, to ask a goy maybe, like, you know, to do it, that's fine. But we cannot be mechal Shabbat.
Can you move it with a shinui?
Move in that case, yes. Of course, with the shinui, we're going to get to it. Moving mukseh mahmat gufo with the shinui is fine. Excuse me.
Can we pet the pet?
As long as it won't be moving as a result, that should be fine, right? Because again, mukseh is only asur to move. But to touch mukseh, let's say this pen is here, you just want to touch the pen. As long as it won't move, see, it's moving now, but if it won't move, that's fine, right? So the dog probably will move. So in that case, it's better not to. You have to know what dog it is, and so on and so forth. If it's
How come if they move, it's a mukseh?
mukseh is asur to move. That's the problem. Something that's mukseh, it is asur to move, and that's why we have this issue. So if we are done with the pets, we'll move on. We're still in the Halachot of mukseh mahmat gufo, and so now any keli, any vessel that breaks, even if it breaks on Shabbat, even if right now it broke on Shabbat, you're still allowed to move the broken pieces, because when Shabbat began, this thing was a keli. It wasn't mukseh mahmat gufo. This thing was a vessel, was a useful utensil, vessel, and therefore we could go ahead, and even now that it broke on Shabbat, we could move it. This is different than a rock. A rock, when Shabbat began, was a rock, right? It was not a vessel, it was a nothing, and it didn't have a shem, a name of a keli on it. Vessel, that's why, unless you designate it for a keli, on the whole Shabbat, it's asur to move. Whereas this thing, on the onset of Shabbat, when Shabbat began, it was a keli. It was a perfectly normal keli. It was a plate, and a plate is perfectly fine to move and use on Shabbat. So therefore, this thing, this plate that now broke, you want to pick up the pieces, put them somewhere, or whatever you want to do with them. use it as a paperweight, that's fine, right? Because when Shabbat began, it was a keli, and it was a part of the keli, therefore, and it is not mukseh. Again, a rock, when Shabbat began, it was always mukseh. So now nothing changed, unless before Shabbat he set it aside. However,
The rod, I'm sorry.
the rock,
Huh.
no rock. Now,
Rod.
if you have this broken piece, it should be, you should be able to use it for something. As I said, a paperweight. But if you have no use for it, it's like a tiny little piece of the china plate. You have no use for it, then it becomes mukseh. Okay? You have a china plate, fell down, broke to 1,000 pieces. Okay, the bigger pieces, as I said, they could be used here or there, but the tiny pieces, there is no use for them. They do become mukseh, and in that case, you sweep them away, and it's fine, unless it's danger. If it's chas v'shalom, if it's danger, usually China is not going to be so dangerous. It's not like glass, and you don't have to move it. But if it's in the way, if it's going to be damaging something, in that case, you go ahead and move it. Okay, now. If let's say something broke, let's go back to the plate. The plate broke before Shabbat, and you threw it out in the trash. Now on Shabbat he says, "Ah, that broken piece, I could use it. I don't know for whatever, for some use." Can one take it from the trash and use it?
No,
Why is that?
because it was before Shabbat.
Because before Shabbat, when Shabbat began, I had put this thing out of my mind. It became absolutely mukseh. Being that at that moment it was mukseh, it remains in the status of mukseh for the whole Shabbat. Okay? It acquires the status of mukseh for the whole duration of Shabbat. Right? At Ben Shmashot it was mukseh. Again, we go back to that rule that we mentioned before. Migu, the itkatsae, the Ben Shmashot, because through the fact that it became mukseh at Ben Shmashot, it katsa'el lekul Shabbat, it becomes mukseh for the whole Shabbat. The reason why I'm repeating it, I want you to be familiar with the expression. Now, so that's that, and it remains mukseh like that. And more so, if it broke on Erev Shabbat, as we said, like, then it's completely out of the picture. Then there is no other use that we could have for it. Now, if it broke, we mentioned already, if it broke on Shabbat, then it's not a problem for a person to move it around, because when Shabbat began, this thing was not mukseh, even if you threw it in the trash. Even if on Shabbat you threw it in the trash, but being that in the beginning of Shabbat it was not trash, it was a keli, now, even though it's there and you decide to use it, obviously it's clean. If it's not clean, there's no point to it. Then it is not mukseh, no problem. As we mentioned, glass that breaks, that's dangerous, right? Especially if it breaks where people are walking by. In that case, this glass should be moved aside, better with a broom. Otherwise, with something else, with whatever we can, so that chas v'shalom, nobody should get damaged from it. But if it's something that's not dangerous, nobody could get damaged. They are therefore mukseh. You should not move them. Good. If the glass broke and it's somewhere, then nobody's going to pass by there. It's in your garage. Nobody goes in the garage. And you heard, oops, one of the, a light bulb fell and broke. Okay? Then, in that case, it happened, recently. So in that case, you cannot go ahead and sweep it, because there's no reason for it. Nobody's going to go there. There's no danger to the people that are walking by, and therefore it is not mutar to move it. Yes.
So if you have a stroller, like Shabbat day, and all of a sudden like a wheel breaks off, it's not mukseh, the wheel or the broken stroller?
The wheel is not mukseh, and the stroller is not mukseh. But you can't fix it, remember?
You can't fix it.
That would be betakema.
Carry the...
Yeah, you could carry it, or you could push it, whatever it is, to a safe place. It is not mukseh.
What if
because
it's
a
not
kli.
broken? It could just click back on.
If it can be used without fixing it, then no, either way you can't. No. It's not. It's not such a simple thing. But they can mana. You're perfecting a vessel.
It was perfected for.
Right, and now it's not.
Let's say we learn all this halachot. Let's say by mistake we forgot something and we doing. Is it as an avera because we learning and we're not doing it?
Yes.
No, really, I'm serious. Let's say with a stroller, I didn't pay attention or something and I fix it. But I came to class and then after I said, oh my God, I shouldn't do that.
That's why we said the story in the beginning, so we get encouraged to do it. Right?
It's really
That's
as
the point of it.
avera?
Well,
Because
yeah,
you
there are
learned that
different-
and you're not doing it?
Of course, there are different levels. And then if we don't learn it, after 120 years, Hashem says, why didn't you go to class and learn? Right? Yeah. All right. So you have pickle jars, or olive jars, or tuna cans. I don't know, whatever it is. It's empty. Okay. Coffee jars, empty. Plastic bottles. Whatever, yogurt containers, come up with all the examples you want. Now, all these things, are they mukseh or not? They're empty. Once they're empty, you finish drinking the soda, water, whatever it is, and you put it aside. You put it on the counter. Is it mukseh?
We usually reuse it now.
Doesn't matter. Even if you don't reuse it, oh, very good. We're gonna get to that. It's not mukseh because when Shabbat began, this thing was not mukseh. This thing was a keli, and therefore it was not mukseh. Now, if before Shabbat you already put it in the trash, then they are mukseh. Like we mentioned before. There's a difference between these and the plate. Let's say you have a plate, and you said, you know what? I don't like this plate anymore. It's not broken. I don't like this plate anymore. You throw it in the trash. On Friday, can you on Shabbat take this thing and move it?
Yeah. It was still a kli. And
That's
I
right.
like it.
It was a kli. You threw it in the trash, but it was still a kli. It wasn't broken. It was still useful.
But
You
it
just
was
wanted to
before
throw it in the
Shabbat.
trash. Yes, even before Shabbat. But the name of the keli wasn't removed from it. If an empty soda bottle you threw in the trash before Shabbat, it's mukseh because you removed the name of a kli from it. It's a very important distinction. Empty tuna can, throw it in the trash, it's gone. If you're not gonna call it a kli, oh my dear, empty tuna can, I could have used that to hold nails in it, like whatever it is. No, it's trash. It's not a kli anymore. Finished. But your plate, you know what? You didn't like it. Your husband is going to come in. Where is that little flowery plate that I always used to use? You say, oh, it's in the trash. Oh, come on. Shalom bayit problems, right? That thing is still a kli. So that should not be considered mukseh. And therefore, one could go ahead and, if you wish, take it out of the trash and whatever. It's just not mukseh. That's the whole point, right? Because if you just throw it out, it doesn't become disgusting yet. So therefore, one is allowed to move it. One is allowed to take it out. Yes.
So if you have a bunch of mukseh things in the trash, and say the trash gets full, are you allowed to take the trash out?
Okay, that becomes in the halakha that Be'ezrat Hashem. I don't think we're going to get to it this week. That's going to become a basis, a davar asur umutar. Depends when you put the trash in it, and it also depends, is it on top, is it at the bottom? But either way, it's not mukseh because you have a lot of other trash in there, and therefore it's not mukseh. You just want to put it aside. It's a different variety of reasons why you would be able to move it or not. We'll see.
Before I forget, what is important too, in Shabbat, if we invited some place, can we take with us the orchid and flower?
Is it
Can-
mukseh? So let's talk about halachot of mukseh. We'll leave those for later.
No, but it's important, isn't it? This Shabbat and invite them. I want to know. Let's say if I can take it, or I have to.
Is
do
it a
for
flower
Shabbat.
pot? Or it's just a bouquet of flowers
It's an orchid. It has a clay.
with
That-
dirt?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, dirt.
And it's a problem. If it's a plant, we said it's a problem. Can,
How about
But you said
wine,
if
liquor?
but you said if it's
bouquet.
open, it's okay. But
no,
it's
that was a bouquet. A bouquet of flowers, not in dirt, not in the plant. Bouquet of flowers. If it's open, they could put it in the water. If it's not open, they can't put it.
How about wine? this stuff.
Oh,
I
you're
can-
talking about that something like giving a gift on Shabbat. Oh my gosh, that's
Oh, even that I mean,
a whole different topic. We'll get to it. Bezat Hashem.
Can you recycle?
You could take it and drink it. You could take it there and open it up. Let's.
But still, the orchid you can't take it.
Okay, that's a problem. What was that? I'm sorry.
Can you recycle these cans and can you put it in a balloon?
Put them in the recycling? Yeah, yeah, of course, no problem. Yes.
Talking about trash, can we take the trash can out? To dump it out and
If it bothers you, if it smells, then yeah. But if it's not, then don't. Better not.
if
Right.
it's full and you need to take it out and put a new bag.
Talking about not the big bins, or move it aside. At home in the kitchen.
Put outside the door.
If it's bothering you again, if it smells and it's full, it's disgusting, then you could go ahead in that case, take it out, put it outside, no problem.
Can we close it?
Not tie it. One knot is okay, but a double knot,
No, one.
Right.
Okay, after one night, can we trash it in the bin outside in the alley bin?
yeah, should be fine. Yeah. A button. Is it mukseh?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
If it's a brand new button that was never used, like these reserve ones that they put in the pockets and this and that, or just a button. You have a button that was in your sewing kit, for some odd reason, suddenly you see, oops, there's a button on the table. What do I do with it? A brand new button that was not part of a clothing is mukseh, mahmat, gufo, right? It's not a kli because it hasn't been a kli yet, and it's not food unless your kid wants to swallow it. Chas v'shalom. In that case, this button, right, whatever shape it has, is mukseh. Someone will say, no, a button is also good. You could, if you have a soda bottle, you take a button and you put it, you could cover the soda bottle with it. No, we don't. It's we consider it mukseh mahmat gufo, and we should not move it on Shabbat. But if the button fell off a shirt, off a coat, off a jacket, it was part of the jacket, part of the coat, part of the clothing. In that case, being that it had a name of a keli, it had the status of a keli, and now it fell. So what? It didn't lose its passport. It's still called a kli. It's part of the kli. And being that you're going to go ahead and sew it back on, you can't sew it back on right now, but being that you could sew it back on later on, therefore it remains a part of the kli, you could pick it up normally and put it somewhere safe.
That's if it fell off on Shabbat or before Shabbat. It doesn't
Even
matter.
before Shabbat, that's correct. Being that it was part of the clothing, part of the garment, now you could pick it up, and it does not lose the name, right, the status of a kli because it fell. All right, so there's a distinction between a not used ever button or a used button. Now, I think we could move forward. From mukseh mahmat gufo a little bit. Is there anything that I could tell you with this? Yeah, we're good.
I have one question regarding pets. So sorry. Can we hold like a cat or a dog or something?
We can't lift it off the ground.
Even
That's-
in the house, not outside.
Even in the house, because it's mukseh, right? If it jumps on you, then it jumps on you. But to lift it, that's moving something which is mukseh. Yes.
I don't know if you already went through this, but what if on Shabbat you're eating like a pistachio? So you take it apart, you eat the pistachio, not the
Peel,
shell of it.
shell.
Yeah. Is that mukseh or no?
It depends. If you think birds would eat it, or goats,
Maybe.
if there are goats in LA, even if it's on the side of LA, I know people that have goats. So it depends. I don't think they eat that stuff. You'd be surprised what they eat though. I remember we had tamarindos. You know what's tamarindos, right? Tamarindi. Of course you know.
Sour.
Tamarind, the sour stuff. So we had a whole bunch of them. One time we went to Israel to my friends in Mitzveh Ramon. They used to live down south, an hour and a half south of Beersheba. It's a beautiful desert town, Mitzveh Ramon. If you ever go, it's beautiful. And they have a lot of mountain goats all over. I mean, they're like sitting in bus stops. They're like all over. They're all over the place. And we're eating this stuff, these tamarindos, and I'm like, we said, you know what, let's see if they eat it. They loved it. The pits of tamarind, they loved it. They were like chasing after us for this stuff, and like, we were like eating them fast so we could give them these. So you'd be really surprised. So those are not mukseh, especially in Mitzvah Ramon, they're not mukseh on Shabbat. The shells, the pistachio shells, the typical example of a mukseh in those cases, they usually say egozim, like almonds or walnuts, right? The shells are definitely mukseh. What to do with them, we'll see. Just so that you won't be in suspense too much. If you have like a whole pile of them, and it's disgusting, you can't sit on the table with all these things. Then you could literally take them with your own hands without using anything else, without a shinui. Take it, throw it in the trash.
How about
That's
if it's
fine.
in the plate?
In the plate also, it's fine.
The plate's even better
Because
now,
it's
because then everyone's touch on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's
Let's say you didn't use a plate. Yeah.
But that's why it's disgusting.
Yeah. It's like mius. It's like you don't like it. You can't sit at the table with these things. Then it's allowed. But we'll discuss it more. We're moving in that direction. A keli, okay, which is melachto leheter. Everyone remember what a keli shemelachto leheter is? It's a kli. It's a vessel that the usage of it is allowed, as the translation of the word goes. Example: a plate, fork, spoon,
Knife.
chair, knife. Well, knife. These days, don't talk about knives. A chair, a table. These are keli shemelachto leheter. You're definitely allowed to use a spoon and a fork. We said, if you remember, that was the beginning of mukseh when we started, ages ago. You remember we discussed like play with the spoon for no reason. He just wants to play with it, and we said no, right? Obviously it's a kli, but if you could use it for its own usage, you want to eat with it. I don't know. Whatever you want to use it. But just to play with it, unless you're the nervous type, and it calms you down, then we say you're allowed to play with your plate, or I don't know, whatever it is, on the table. Now, you have a keli shemelachto leheter, and on that keli shemelachto leheter, from before Shabbat, you have a mukseh mahmat chisaron kis. That means something which is mukseh, because this thing is worth a lot, and you are careful not to give it to your kids to play with. Or mukseh mahmat gufo, prime example, a rock, right, is on this keli shemelachto leheter. Even if you just leave it there, didn't mean to have it there, but you knew that it's gonna stay there. You wanted it to stay there at the onset of Shabbat. That means the beginning of Shabbat. You wanted it to be there. Okay, you wanted the mukseh mahmat gufo, let's say, to be on keli shemelachto leheter, even if on Shabbat, right, it's not there. Let's say one of the kids came and says, "This is a nice rock, let me throw it." Boom, throws it, and it's not there anymore. Or, I don't know, someone walked by and it fell off. This keli shemelachto leheter becomes asur to move for the duration of Shabbat. This becomes, it's called basis ledavar ha'asur. Basis means it's a base. Basis, base, ledavar ha'asur, so for something which is asur. Okay? So this is a concept in halachot of mukseh, right? That means this thing becomes a base for mukseh that was on it, and it becomes asur to move it, right? Even letzorach gufo umkomo. Example. We'll say an example. You have a camera. Anyone remember what a camera is? Nowadays we don't have it. A camera is mukseh. What is it? It's a kli shemelachto leisur. It's a kli that the usage on Shabbat is asur. Okay? Or we could say that it's a mukseh mahmat chisaron kis. That's even better. Definitely. It's not only kli mukseh, it's a mukseh mahmat chisaron kis. You're not going to throw it around. You're very careful with your camera. It's worth a lot because you have a lot of valuable things in it. So it is a mukseh mahmat chisaron kis. Your typical camera is. You forgot, and you left it on your photo album, before Shabbat. And you say, oh, all right, we'll just leave it there. Okay, remember, you decided to just leave it on the photo album. Friday night, you say, oh no, I want to look at these pictures in the album. Why did I leave the camera on it?
What do they find it? I'm sorry.
Friday night, after the meal, you said, you know what, I want to look at the pictures
look.
in the photo album. One of your kids here, he says, no problem. Takes the camera and puts it in the closet. He says, now you could look at the pictures. This photo album is mukseh, mahmat, gufo. You can't even move it, let alone open it and watch it and look at the pictures. And
Because
it
the camera
becomes,
was there.
because the camera was there in the beginning. So it becomes a basis. It's a kli shemalachto leheter. It becomes a basis ledavar asur. It was a base for something which is asur to move on Shabbat. You can't even use it. You say, oh, you know what? I want to take this photo album and bang this walnut that's not cracking. I don't know. Find the example. You want to use it gufo or mekomo. You want to eat, and it's on the table. You can't move it. Okay? This is called basis ledavar asur.
Question about the camera, because we are new, so we come in the
Okay.
question. You know that a lot of our families, they are not keeping Shabbat. You know?
Right.
So if we go to some place that they took a picture and we're sitting and took picture, we can